72 hours ago, something shifted in your consciousness. You felt it. A heaviness, a knowing, a darkness rising from within that you've spent your entire life trying to suppress. This is not a coincidence. This is activation. If you're here seeking only light, only positivity, only transcendence, you won't make it through this message, and that's okay. This isn't for everyone. But if you're one of the 144 dark chosen ones, if you've always known you're different, if you felt the pull toward shadow work while everyone else chases the light, then you were meant to find this, right now, at this exact moment. Something activated in you 72 hours ago, your shadow self, the part of you that religion rejected, that society shamed, that your family feared, that you've been taught to eliminate. But here's what they never told you. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your power, and it's waking up. I know you've been struggling with this. The darkness that keeps rising. The anger you can't meditate away. The intensity that makes people uncomfortable. The parts of yourself that won't stay buried no matter how hard you try. You've wondered if something is wrong with you. There isn't. You're not broken. You're activating. Before we go deeper, if this resonates with your soul, subscribe now, like this video as your confirmation, and comment the word activated so we can see where the 144 are rising across the world. Because what I'm about to share will explain everything you've been experiencing, why the darkness is rising, what it means, and how to wield it as the sacred weapon it actually is. Stay with me. Don't scroll away. Because in the next moments, we're going to dive deep into the 5 stages of shadow activation, and by the end, you'll understand exactly where you are in this process and what comes next. Let's begin. Let me take you to a concept that will change everything. Carl Jung, Swiss psychiatrist, spent 80 years studying the human psyche, and he discovered something that most people still refuse to accept. The shadow. Jung said this: everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Translation: the more you reject your darkness, the more powerful it becomes. But here's what most people miss about Jung's work. He didn't say eliminate your shadow. He said integrate it. Because your shadow contains everything you rejected about yourself. Your rage, your selfishness, your cruelty, your darkness, your power. Society taught you these things are bad. But Jung discovered they're neutral. It's what you do with them that matters. Think about this. Your capacity for rage could be your capacity for protection. Your selfishness could be your healthy boundaries. Your cruelty could be your discernment. Your darkness could be your depth. Every quality you've been taught to eliminate contains medicine. This is why you've been struggling. You've been trying to become pure light, pure love, pure positivity. But that's not wholeness. That's splitting. Jung called this the persona, the mask you wear for society, the acceptable version of yourself. But beneath the persona lives the shadow. And when you deny the shadow, it doesn't disappear. It controls you unconsciously. You've seen this in your life. The anger that explodes sideways. The jealousy you can't explain. The sabotage you don't understand. The patterns you can't break. That's your shadow operating without your awareness. But 72 hours ago, something changed. Your shadow stopped hiding. It started activating, rising, demanding attention, refusing to be suppressed any longer. And this isn't punishment. This is invitation. An invitation to finally, after all these years, become whole. Not transcending your darkness, not eliminating your shadow, but integrating it, owning it, wielding it, consciously. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will give you the framework for understanding why this is happening now and what to do with it. The 5 stages of shadow activation are universal, and knowing which stage you're in will change everything. Let me break down the 5 stages of shadow activation. And you need to understand which stage you're in right now, because each stage requires different tools, different awareness, different responses. Something happened 72 hours ago. Maybe you don't even remember what it was. A conversation, a rejection, a moment of clarity, a breakdown, a betrayal. Something cracked open the container you've been using to suppress your shadow, and it started leaking out. This is the trigger phase. Jung called this the encounter with the shadow, the moment when you can no longer deny what you've been rejecting. Here's what happens in this stage. You start feeling things you've been taught not to feel: rage, jealousy, hatred, desire, darkness, and your first instinct is to suppress them again, to meditate them away, to affirmation them into positivity, to spiritual bypass them with love and light. But that doesn't work anymore, because once the shadow activates, it won't go back to sleep. I know you've been frustrated with this. You've tried to be better, to fix yourself, to eliminate the parts that don't fit. But they keep returning because they're not problems to solve. They're parts to integrate. And if you're watching this, you're probably one of the 144. You've noticed this. You've tried all your old tools: gratitude journaling, positive thinking, affirmations, manifestation, and they're not working the way they used to. That's because you're in a different phase now. The phase where integration, not transcendence, is required. The trigger can be anything. For some people, it's a traumatic event. For others, it's reaching a certain age. The classic midlife crisis is actually a shadow activation. For many of the 144, it's a spiritual awakening that cracks open the psyche and exposes everything you've been hiding. Whatever the trigger, the result is the same. Your shadow rises, your darkness surfaces, your rejected parts demand attention. And the first step is recognizing the trigger, acknowledging that something has shifted, that your shadow is no longer willing to hide. This is uncomfortable, but it's not wrong. It's activation. Stay with me, because understanding the next stage will help you navigate what's coming. And if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, that means the shadow is active. That means you're in the process. That means this message is for you. Now listen carefully. What I'm about to explain will help you understand every conflict you're experiencing right now. When your shadow activates, you start projecting it onto others. Jung explained this brilliantly. He said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Translation: the things you hate in other people are often the things you've rejected in yourself. Think about it. The person who triggers your rage might be showing you your own unprocessed anger. The friend whose selfishness bothers you might be reflecting your own suppressed needs. The coworker whose intensity makes you uncomfortable might be mirroring your own rejected power. This is projection, and in stage 2 of shadow activation, you project constantly. Everything irritates you. Everyone bothers you. The whole world seems darker. But here's the truth. The world hasn't changed. Your perception has, because your shadow is rising, and you're seeing it everywhere. This is actually progress. I know it feels like you're becoming more negative, more cynical, more judgmental. But what's really happening is you're becoming more aware. You're starting to see the shadow in yourself and others. And awareness is the first step toward integration. Jung said, "Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face," meaning when you project your shadow, you're literally seeing your own unconscious face in everyone around you. So when you find yourself irritated, ask this question: what part of myself am I seeing in them? When you feel triggered, explore this: what rejected quality is this person reflecting? When you're judging, investigate. What am I refusing to own in myself? This is shadow work, not eliminating the projection, but understanding it, using it as a mirror, learning from it. Here's a practical example. Let's say someone at work constantly brags about their accomplishments, and it irritates you intensely. Most people would say, "They're so arrogant. They need to be humble." But shadow work asks, what part of me wants recognition but has been taught that wanting attention is bad? Suddenly, the projection becomes information. You realize you've suppressed your own desire for recognition. You've made it shadow, and now it irritates you when you see it in others. When you do this work, when you reclaim the projection, something shifts. You move into stage 3. And this is where most people turn back, because stage 3 requires courage most don't have. Stay with me. This is where most people turn back, because stage 3 requires you to go into the darkness consciously. Jung called this the night sea journey, the descent into the underworld of your own psyche. This is where you stop running from your shadow and start exploring it. You sit with your rage instead of suppressing it. You feel your jealousy instead of shaming it. You acknowledge your cruelty instead of denying it. You meet your darkness face to face. And this is terrifying. I know you've been afraid of this. Afraid that if you let yourself feel the darkness, you'll become it. That if you acknowledge the shadow, you'll be consumed by it. But that's not how it works. The shadow only controls you when it's unconscious. When you bring it into consciousness, when you face it directly, you gain power over it. This is what Jung meant when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The descent is where transformation happens. You go down into your shadow. You explore the rejected parts. You reclaim the exiled qualities. And you discover something shocking. Your shadow contains power you didn't know you had.
The rage you've been suppressing is actually fierce protection. The selfishness you've been denying is actually healthy boundaries. The cruelty you've been avoiding is actually necessary discernment.
Your shadow isn't evil. It's medicine you've been refusing to take. In stage 3, you finally take it. You integrate it, not by becoming bad, but by becoming whole. Here's what this looks like practically. You might sit in meditation, and instead of trying to raise your vibration, you actually descend into the feeling you've been avoiding. You ask it questions. What are you trying to tell me? What do you need? What quality do you represent? And your shadow answers, through feelings, through images, through insights. And you start to understand that the darkness isn't random. It's intelligent. It's purposeful. It's trying to make you whole. This descent can take weeks, months, even years. But for the 144, something accelerates it. There's an urgency, a calling, a sense that the world needs integrated people right now, and there's no time for a decade-long journey. This is why the 144 are different. So the descent intensifies, the shadow rises faster, the activation accelerates. And if you're watching this, you're probably in this accelerated process. This leads to stage 4, and this is where everything changes, because stage 4 is where you stop being a victim of your shadow and become a master of it. Don't miss this. Now hear me clearly. What I'm about to explain is the difference between shadow work and shadow indulgence. Most people get this wrong. Integration is not indulgence. Let me be very clear about this because most people misunderstand shadow work completely. Integrating your shadow doesn't mean acting on every dark impulse. It doesn't mean letting your rage control you. It doesn't mean becoming selfish or cruel. Integration means bringing the shadow into consciousness and choosing how to wield it consciously, with awareness, with intention. Here's an example. Let's say your shadow contains rage. If the rage is unconscious, it leaks out sideways. Passive aggression, sudden explosions, chronic resentment. But if you integrate the rage, if you own it consciously, you can wield it as a tool. You can use it to set boundaries, to protect what you love, to confront injustice, to say no with power. Same energy, different expression. Or let's say your shadow contains what society calls selfishness. If it's unconscious, you either people please to overcompensate or you manipulate to get your needs met indirectly. But if you integrate it, you recognize it as self-care, self-preservation, healthy self-focus, and you stop apologizing for taking care of yourself. This is integration. Owning the shadow, accepting it, directing it consciously instead of being controlled by it unconsciously. Jung said, "We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. You can't transform your shadow by condemning it. You can only transform it by accepting it first, then directing it second. When you reach this stage, you become dangerous. Not dangerous as in harmful, dangerous as in powerful. Because most people are controlled by their unconscious shadow. But you've made yours conscious. You know your darkness. You own your intensity. You understand your power. And that makes you unstoppable. Here's what integration looks like in real life. Someone says something that would normally trigger your rage. But instead of exploding or suppressing, you feel the rage consciously. You recognize it. You understand what it's protecting, and then you choose your response. Maybe you set a boundary firmly. Maybe you walk away with power. Maybe you speak truth without apology. But the rage doesn't control you. You control it. That's integration. Or someone asks you to do something that violates your needs. Normally, you'd say yes and resent them later. Or you'd say no and feel guilty. But with integration, you recognize your selfish need for self-care, honor it without guilt, and say no clearly. The shadow quality, selfishness, is now integrated as healthy self-focus. Same energy. Conscious expression. When you master stage 4, when you've integrated your primary shadow qualities, you're ready for stage 5. And this is what separates the 144 from everyone else. Because stage 5 is about offering. Don't miss this. The final stage of shadow activation is offering. This is where your integrated shadow becomes medicine for others. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But I would add, the purpose of a lifetime is to offer that truth to the world. Your shadow work, your integration, your wholeness isn't just for you. It's for everyone who's still stuck in splitting, everyone who's still at war with their darkness, everyone who's still trying to transcend what they need to integrate. When you've done the work, you become a guide, not a guru, not a teacher, but a living example of what's possible. People will feel it when they're around you. Your wholeness, your groundedness, your lack of pretense. They'll sense that you're not performing light, you're embodying it. And darkness too, both, at the same time, integrated. And that will give them permission to do the same. This is the offering. Your integration becomes an invitation for others. Your shadow work becomes a bridge for those still afraid of their darkness. Your wholeness becomes proof that splitting isn't necessary. You've wondered why you went through so much darkness, why you had to suffer when others seemed to coast. But now you understand. You're being prepared to guide others through what you've already walked. You don't have to preach it. You don't have to teach it. You just have to be it. And that changes everything. Not just for you, but for everyone you touch. This is why the 144 are activating right now. The 144 are the bridge builders, not just for personal healing, but because the world needs integrated people. The world is drowning in splitting. Light versus dark. Good versus evil. Spiritual versus material. And the 144 are here to demonstrate that both and is more real than either or. You are the bridge. You are the integration. You are the offering. And 72 hours ago, your shadow activated because it's time. Time to stop running. Time to descend. Time to integrate. Time to offer your wholeness to a world desperate for it. This is your calling. And if you're still watching, if your soul is resonating with every word, you're one of the 144. You're activating, and everything is about to change. Now breathe this in. Let this truth settle into your bones. Right now, as you listen to these words, your shadow is integrating. The rage you've been afraid of is becoming conscious protection. The selfishness you've been denying is becoming healthy boundaries. The cruelty you've been avoiding is becoming necessary discernment. The darkness you've been fighting is becoming your depth. You are not becoming more negative. You are becoming more whole. No longer will you apologize for your intensity. No longer will you shrink to make others comfortable. No longer will you perform light while your shadow controls you unconsciously. The splitting is ending. The integration is beginning. The wholeness is emerging. You are not like them, the ones who chase only light, the ones whose spiritual bypass their shadow, the ones who pretend darkness doesn't exist. You're different. You're one of the 144. The ones willing to descend. The ones brave enough to face their shadow. The ones strong enough to integrate what others reject. And that makes you powerful. Not power over others, power over yourself. Power to choose, power to direct, power to wield your wholeness consciously. This is your activation. This is your integration. This is your emergence. The shadow you feared is becoming your medicine. The darkness you rejected is becoming your gift. The parts you exiled are coming home. And when they do, when every fragment integrates, when the splitting ends and the wholeness emerges, you become who you were always meant to be. Not half of yourself, not the acceptable version, not the persona, but the totality, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, power and vulnerability, strength and softness, all of it. Integrated, whole, complete. This is what activated 72 hours ago. This is what's rising in you now. This is what the 144 carry. Right now, unconscious patterns are becoming conscious. Right now, suppressed shadow qualities are surfacing. Right now, rejected parts are returning home. Right now, your wholeness is emerging. You are not breaking down. You are breaking through. You are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself. You are not becoming dark. You are becoming integrated. And the world needs this. Needs you. Whole, complete, integrated, offering your wholeness as proof that another way is possible. The 144 are rising. Across every country, every culture, every background, the integrated ones are emerging. The shadow workers are activating. The dark chosen ones are stepping into their power. And you are one of them. 72 hours ago, your shadow said, "It's time." And you felt it. You knew it. You couldn't deny it anymore. This is your moment. This is your activation. This is your calling. Receive it. Own it. Embody it. Offer it. In your wholeness, you heal the world. Now let's speak this affirmation together. If you can, say it out loud. Let your voice activate the integration. I am whole, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, masculine and feminine, power and vulnerability. I reclaim every rejected part, every exiled fragment, every denied quality, every suppressed emotion. I own my rage and wield it as fierce protection for what I love. I accept my selfishness and honor it as sacred self-care and healthy boundaries. I acknowledge my cruelty and use it as discernment that cuts through illusion. I embrace my darkness and offer it as depth that others can trust. I am not split. I am not fragmented. I am not performing for approval. I am integrated. I am whole. I am complete. The shadow does not control me because I have made it conscious. The darkness does not frighten me because I have descended into it. The intensity does not shame me because I have claimed it. I am one of the 144, the dark chosen ones, the shadow workers, the integrated warriors. And I offer my wholeness to a world that's still splitting, not as a teacher, but as a living example, not as a guru, but as proof of what's possible. I am the integration. I am the offering. I am the medicine. In my wholeness, I give others permission to be whole. In my integration, I invite others to integrate. In my emergence, I inspire others to emerge. This is my activation. This is my purpose. This is my path. I accept it. I embody it. I offer it. And now, for everyone who subscribes to this channel, I offer this blessing. May your integration accelerate. May your shadow work deepen. May your wholeness emerge faster than you imagined possible. For everyone who likes this message, I decree, may unexpected insights arrive. May synchronicities multiply. May the right teachers and teachings find you exactly when you need them. May confirmation come through dreams, through signs, through sudden knowing. For everyone who shares this work, I declare, may your offering reach those who need it. May your wholeness inspire others. May your emergence create ripples that heal generations. May your courage give others courage. May your integration ignite integration in everyone you touch. You are not alone in this work. The 144 are rising across the world, in every city, every country, every culture. The integrated ones are emerging, and you are one of them. You are 144. You are activated. And what comes next will determine whether you do this work alone or with support. Activated, integrating, emerging. It is done. It is established. It is unfolding. Now. If this message resonated with something deep inside you, if you recognize yourself as one of the 144, if you feel your shadow activating and want to navigate this consciously, do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. This is a gathering place for the dark chosen ones, the shadow workers, the ones doing the integration work that most people avoid. Next week, I'll be releasing a video on the 3 shadow wounds every chosen one carries and the process for healing them without spiritual bypassing. This is the companion to what you just watched. You won't want to miss it. Second, like this video and comment below. Tell me, what stage of shadow activation are you in right now? Trigger, projection, descent, integration, offering? Let's see how many of the 144 are watching right now, and build a community of integrated warriors who can support each other through this work. Third, share this message. Not everyone will understand it, and that's okay. But there are others like you in your circle, others who are activating, others who need to know they're not alone. Share this. Plant seeds. Let the 144 find each other. If you want to support this work financially, there's a link in the description. Your contribution helps us continue creating content for the dark chosen ones, the shadow workers, the ones committed to integration instead of splitting. Thank you. Now go, be whole, walk in your integration, wield your shadow as the medicine it is. You are not too dark. You are not too intense. You are not too much. You are exactly what the world needs, whole. Until next time, this is a reminder. Your shadow is sacred. Your darkness is medicine. Your integration is your power. Be whole. There is a test, an ancient test that 89% of seekers fail, not because they're weak, not because they're unworthy, but because they're looking for the wrong thing. They're seeking light when the test requires darkness. They're pursuing transcendence when the test demands descent. They're chasing purity when the test calls for wholeness. If you're here seeking only comfort, only validation, only confirmation that you're already complete, you will not pass this test. And that's okay. This test isn't for everyone. But if you've always known you're different, if you felt called to something deeper than surface spirituality, if you've sensed that true transformation requires facing what others avoid, then you might be one of the 11%, the dark chosen ones, the ones called to shadow work, the ones willing to integrate what others reject. I'm going to give you 7 questions throughout this message. Answer them honestly, not out loud, just in your mind, in your heart. And by the end, you'll know if you're one of the 11%. Here's the first question. Have you ever felt that your darkness is not your enemy, but contains something you need? If yes, keep watching. If no, this message probably isn't for you. Before we go deeper, if something in your soul is stirring right now, subscribe, like this is your agreement, and comment, "I'm ready," so we can see where the 11% are rising across the world. Because what I'm about to share will challenge everything you've been taught about spirituality, psychology, and what it means to be whole. This isn't theory. This is a test. And by the end, you'll know exactly where you stand. Stay with me. Don't scroll away. Because in the next moments, we're going to explore the 7 marks of a dark chosen one. And each mark will reveal whether you're truly called to this path or whether you're better suited for the 89% who seek only light. Let's begin the test. Let me tell you about 2 men. One was a king. One was a psychologist. 3,000 years apart. But they discovered the same truth. The first man was David. 2 Samuel chapter 6. He's dancing before the Lord with all his might. The scripture says he danced with such abandon that his wife despised him for it. But here's what most people miss. David wasn't just celebrating victory. He was expressing his totality. This was the same man who wrote psalms of tender worship and also murdered to cover his sins. The same man who played harp to soothe King Saul and also collected foreskins as trophies of war. David contained multitudes, light and shadow, worship and warfare, tenderness and terror. And when he danced in his wholeness, not just his righteousness. Now, the second man, Carl Jung, Swiss psychiatrist, spent 80 years studying the human psyche, and he discovered what he called the shadow. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Translation: you can't transcend what you haven't integrated. You can't become whole by rejecting half of yourself. You can't find enlightenment by avoiding your darkness. Here's where it gets interesting. Jung never read David's story the way I just told it. And David never heard Jung's theories about the shadow. But they both discovered the same truth. Wholeness requires integration of light and shadow, not elimination. Integration, not transcendence. Embodiment, not purity. Completeness. This is what 89% of seekers miss. This is what the 11% understand that the 89% miss. They're trying to become only light, only love, only positive. Christians try to die to self and eliminate the flesh. Spiritual seekers try to raise their vibration and transcend the ego. Psychologists try to fix what's broken and remove dysfunction. But none of them understand the truth. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your power in exile. And the test, the real test, is whether you're willing to bring it home. Stay with me, because here's the second question. Have you tried to eliminate parts of yourself through prayer, meditation, or therapy, only to have them return stronger? If yes, you're beginning to understand. The test continues. And what I'm about to share next will reveal the exact markers that separate the 11% from the 89%. These aren't just interesting observations. These are diagnostic criteria. And if you recognize yourself in 4 or more of these marks, you're not just curious about shadow work. You're called to it. Now let me break down the 7 marks of a dark chosen one. These are the signs that you're one of the 11% called to shadow work. Not everyone will have all 7. But if you recognize 4 or more, you're likely called to this path. This is the first mark, and it's foundational. You've always felt like an outsider. Not just in the world, but even among seekers. You go to church, and the sermons feel shallow. You join meditation groups, and the positivity feels forced. You read spiritual books, and something feels missing. Because most spiritual teaching is about ascending, rising above, transcending, becoming more light. But you feel called to something else, descending, embodying, integrating the darkness. The book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 8, says, "If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there." God is in the heights and the depths, light and shadow. Jung called people like you wounded healers, the ones who've been to the underworld and returned. The ones who know darkness intimately, not because they're evil, but because they've descended. You've sat in spiritual circles where everyone is talking about gratitude and abundance and raising their vibration, and you're thinking, but what about the rage? What about the grief? What about the parts of ourselves we're pretending don't exist? And you felt crazy for thinking this. You've wondered if you're just negative, just broken, just spiritually immature. But the truth is simpler. The 11% can't ignore this feeling. You're one of the 11% who can't pretend anymore, who can't spiritual bypass, who needs wholeness, not performance. Do you feel more drawn to depth than height? More interested in descent than ascension? If yes, you carry the first mark. Now listen carefully. This mark is critical, and it's where most people get confused. You've been told you're too much, too intense, too emotional, too passionate, too direct, too dark. People have asked you to tone it down, lighten up, be more positive. But you can't. Not because you're broken, but because your intensity is part of your design. Look at the prophets in Scripture. Elijah called down fire from heaven. Jeremiah wept over nations. Ezekiel acted out bizarre prophecies. John the Baptist ate locusts and wore camel hair. They were all too much for the comfortable religious people, but God used their intensity. Jung would say their intensity came from an integrated shadow. They weren't suppressing their darkness, they were wielding it. Their rage became righteous anger. Their sorrow became prophetic grief. Their wildness became holy disruption. Same with you. Your intensity isn't a problem to fix. It's power waiting to be directed. When you suppress it, it leaks out destructively. Passive aggression, sudden explosions, chronic resentment, people-pleasing, followed by rage. But when you integrate it, it becomes your medicine. Fierce protection, clear boundaries, prophetic truth-telling, unwavering conviction. I know you've been made to feel like your intensity is a flaw, like you need to calm down, lighten up, be more palatable. But that's a lie designed to keep you small. Jung said, "The shadow is that which you refuse to be. Your intensity is what you've refused to be." I know you've been shamed for this. I know people have made you feel like something is wrong with you. I know you've tried to be softer, lighter, easier. And I know it hasn't worked. Because you're not supposed to be soft. You're supposed to be integrated. There's a difference. Soft people suppress their shadow. Integrated people wield it consciously. Has your intensity been shamed by others, but you secretly know it's your power? If yes, you carry the second mark. That's 2 marks so far. Keep counting. You need 4 to pass. Stop and think about this for a moment. This mark alone could explain your entire spiritual journey. This mark is non-negotiable. Dark chosen ones don't just study shadow work theoretically. They've lived it. You've been through something that broke you open. Trauma, betrayal, loss, depression, addiction. Darkness so deep you wondered if you'd survive. And you did survive. But you're not the same. You came back changed. The book of Job tells this story. Job lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health. Even his wife told him to curse God and die. But Job descended into the darkness, wrestled with it, questioned God directly. And when he emerged, he said in chapter 42, verse 5, "I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you." He knew God differently after the darkness, not theoretically, experientially. Jung called this the night sea journey, the descent into the underworld of your own psyche. And only those who've made that journey, who've truly faced their shadow, can guide others through it. This is why you've suffered so much, not as punishment, as preparation. This is why the 11% have suffered more. Your darkness is your qualification. Your wounds are your credentials. Your shadow work is what makes you trustworthy to others doing the same work. Jung called this the wounded healer archetype, those who heal because they've been wounded. The 89% haven't been to the depths. They've had challenges, sure, but they haven't descended. They haven't faced the abyss. They haven't integrated darkness. And that's why they can only teach light. But you've been both places. You know the heights and the depths. You carry both light and shadow. And that makes you rare. That makes you one of the 11%. Have you survived darkness so deep that it fundamentally changed who you are? If yes, you carry the third mark. I know you've felt this frustration. You're in spaces where people use spirituality to avoid reality. Just think positive. Raise your vibration. Everything happens for a reason. God has a plan. And something in you recoils. Not because you don't believe in positivity or faith or divine order, but because you know these phrases are often used to bypass real pain, to avoid shadow work, to stay comfortable in splitting instead of moving toward integration. Jesus didn't spiritual bypass. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Matthew chapter 26, he didn't say, think positive. He said, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. He felt it, named it, brought it to the Father. Integration, then surrender, not bypassing, not pretending, not performing positivity. If you're at 3 or 4 marks already, you know what you are. Keep going. Jung warned against what he called premature transcendence, trying to rise above shadow before you've integrated it. It doesn't work. The shadow just operates unconsciously. Dark chosen ones see this clearly. They can't participate in spiritual bypassing because they know it's not real transformation. Real transformation requires descent before ascension. Integration before transcendence. Shadow work before light work. You've been in groups where someone shares real pain and everyone responds with platitudes. It's all part of the journey. Just surrender. Trust the process. And you've watched the person's face fall because they needed to be witnessed in their darkness, not lifted out of it prematurely. You know that healing isn't linear, that wholeness includes darkness, that sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is sit in the pain and let it teach you. Now this is critical. Pay close attention to what I'm about to say because this is where most people misunderstand shadow work. This ability to see through bypassing isn't cynicism. It's discernment. It's a mark of someone who's actually done the work, not just read about it. Can you spot spiritual bypassing from a mile away? And does it frustrate you? If yes, you carry the 4th mark. This mark separates the 11% from everyone else. You ask questions others won't touch. If God is good, why does He create darkness? Isaiah 45:7 says He does. If we're supposed to love ourselves, why does Jesus say to deny ourselves? If the shadow is just the ego, why did Jung say it contains gold? If everything is energy, why does matter exist? If we're already whole, why do we need transformation? You ask these questions, not to be rebellious, not to be difficult, but because you sense that truth lives in paradox, that the both and is more real than the either or, that light and shadow are not enemies but dance partners. Proverbs chapter 25 verse 2 says, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. God hides truth in darkness for those willing to search. Jung said, in all chaos, there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order. The dark chosen ones are the searchers. Only the 11% ask these questions, the ones willing to go into the concealed places, the forbidden questions, the rejected teachings, the shadow territories. You've been told not to question, to just have faith, to trust without understanding, and something in you has refused, not because you're rebellious, but because you're a seeker. A true seeker. You've felt guilty for questioning. You've been told it's a lack of faith, but questioning isn't doubt, it's the search for deeper truth. The 89% are comfortable with prepackaged answers. Only the 11% ask these questions. The 11% need to discover truth for themselves, even if it means questioning everything. Even if it means walking alone for a while. Even if it means being called a heretic or a skeptic or too intellectual. You'd rather have one truth you discovered in darkness than 1,000 truths handed to you in light. Are you drawn to questions that make others uncomfortable because you sense truth hiding there? If yes, you carry the fifth mark. This mark reveals your purpose. You're not doing shadow work just for yourself. You feel called to help others integrate their shadows too. Not as a guru, not as someone who's arrived, but as a fellow traveler who's been deeper into the darkness and found treasure there. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 4 explains this. God comforts us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble. Your tribulation becomes your ministry. Your shadow work becomes your offering. Jung said, "The wounded healer is the archetype of the one who can heal others because they have been wounded themselves." You've been wounded. You've done the work. You've integrated your shadow. And now you feel the call to help others do the same. Not by preaching at them, not by teaching theories, but by being living proof that integration is possible, that you can face your darkness and not be destroyed. That shadow work leads to wholeness, not fragmentation. This calling might scare you. You might think, who am I to guide anyone? I'm still figuring this out myself. But that's exactly the point. The 11% don't claim to have all the answers. They claim to be willing to sit in the questions with others. You're not called to be perfect. You're called to be real, to be whole, to integrate your shadow, and then show others it's possible. This is the mark of a guide, and if you feel it, you're one of the 11%. The final mark is the hardest to describe. It's a knowing, a sense that you're being called by something greater than yourself. Christians might call it God's calling. Jung might call it the self, the deeper organizing principle of the psyche. Whatever you name it, you feel it. A pull toward shadow work, toward integration, toward wholeness. You can't explain it rationally, but you can't deny it either. Romans chapter 8, verse 28 says, "All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose." Even the darkness, even the shadow, even the pain, all of it working together for integration, for wholeness, for purpose. You are called, not to be perfect, not to be pure, not to be only light, but to be whole. Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Integration is that choice. And that calling, that knowing, is the seventh mark. If you feel it, you're one of the 11%. 7 marks total. 4 or more means you're one of the 11%. How many did you recognize? Now here's what you need to understand. If you recognized 4 or more of these marks, if you answered yes to 4 or more questions, you've just passed the test that 89% fail. You're not broken. You're not too dark. You're not spiritually immature. You're one of the dark chosen ones, called to shadow work, designed for integration. And what I'm about to share next will activate that calling in ways you can't imagine. Listen carefully. Everything I've said so far has been building to this moment. Now, if you recognized 4 or more of these marks, if you answered yes to 4 or more questions, if something in your soul is confirming what I'm saying, then hear me clearly. You are one of the 11%. You are a dark chosen one, called to shadow work, called to integration, called to wholeness. And right now, something is activating in you. The courage to stop running from your shadow, the willingness to descend into your darkness, the strength to integrate what you've been taught to eliminate. You are not broken for feeling different. You are not wrong for being intense. You are not damaged for asking forbidden questions. You are designed this way. By God, by the self, by the organizing principle of your psyche. Whatever language you use, the truth is the same. You are meant to be whole, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, ascending and descending. No longer will you apologize for your depth. No longer will you suppress your intensity. No longer will you spiritual bypass your shadow. The splitting is ending. The integration is beginning. Isaiah chapter 43 verse 19 declares, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Jung's final insight was about wholeness. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct. Integration is the play between shadow and light. Both are saying the same thing. Something new is emerging. Your wholeness, your totality, your integration. And when you walk in that, when you embody both light and shadow, when you integrate instead of split, you become medicine, not just for yourself, but for everyone still trapped in the either-or. Everyone's still at war with their shadow. Everyone's still trying to transcend what they need to integrate. You become proof that another way is possible. The dark chosen ones are rising. The 11% are the integrators. The 11% are emerging. The shadow workers are activating. And you are one of them. Called, chosen, equipped for this work, for this path, for this integration. Right now, the courage to face your shadow is rising. Right now, the willingness to descend is strengthening. Right now, the capacity to integrate is activating. You are not becoming more negative. You are becoming more whole. You are not losing your light. You are reclaiming your darkness. You are not breaking down. You are breaking through. The same God who holds the stars holds your shadow. The same self that organizes the cosmos organizes your psyche. And when you surrender all of it, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, to integration, you become unstoppable. This is your moment. This is your activation. This is your calling. Receive it, own it, embody it, offer it. Because the world doesn't need more light chasers. The world needs integrated warriors. People who've descended and returned. People who know both heights and depths. People who carry wholeness, not performance. You are one of them, and everything is about to change. Now let's seal this together. Whether you pray or affirm, whether you speak to God or the self, speak this with me, out loud if you can. Let your voice activate the integration. Father, Source, Divine Consciousness, I come before you as I am, whole, complete, light, and shadow. I am one of the 11%, a dark chosen one, called to shadow work, designed for integration. I release the need to be only light. I surrender the pressure to transcend my humanity. I let go of the lie that my shadow is my enemy. I reclaim my rage and consecrate it as righteous anger. I retrieve my selfishness and honor it as self-care. I acknowledge my cruelty and wield it as discernment. I embrace my darkness and offer it as depth. Like David, I dance in my totality. Like Jung taught, I make my darkness conscious. I am not split. I am integrated. I am not broken. I am whole. I am not ascending away from my humanity. I am embodying it fully. I am called to this work, to face my shadow, to integrate my darkness, to become whole, and in my wholeness, I give others permission to be whole. In my integration, I invite others to integrate. In my embodiment, I prove that another way is possible. This is my activation. This is my purpose. This is my path. I accept it. I embody it. I offer it. For everyone watching who resonates with this message, may your shadow work accelerate. May your integration deepen. May your wholeness emerge. For everyone who subscribes, may guidance find you. May teachers appear. May the path unfold clearly. May supernatural confirmation come through dreams, through signs, through knowing. For everyone who likes this message, may insight arrive. May synchronicities multiply. May your calling strengthen. May you step into your power without fear or apology. For everyone who shares this work, may your offering reach those who need it. May your wholeness inspire others. May your emergence create ripples that heal generations. You are not alone in this. The 11% are rising. The dark chosen ones are emerging. The shadow workers are gathering, and you are one of them. You are 11%. Comment if you're one of the 11%. Let us see you. It is done. It is established. It is unfolding. Now. Amen. And so it is. So, how did you score? Count them up right now. How many marks did you recognize? How many questions did you answer yes to? If it's 4 or more, you've just passed the test that 89% fail. You're officially one of the 11%. And that means everything I'm about to invite you into is specifically designed for you. But if you scored 3 or less, that's okay too. This path isn't for everyone. You might be called to a different journey, and there's no shame in that. But for those of you who scored 4 or more, for the 11%, here's what happens next. First, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. This is where the 11% gather, where shadow work is honored, where integration is the path. Next week, I'm releasing the companion to this video, the 3 shadow wounds every chosen one carries, and the biblical Jungian path to healing them. Here's why this matters. If you scored 4 or more on this test, if you're one of the 11%, you carry specific shadow wounds that need specific healing. Not generic spiritual advice. Not positive thinking, but targeted shadow integration work. This companion video will show you exactly which wounds you carry and the precise path to heal them. If you passed this test, you need that video. You won't want to miss it. Second, like this video and comment your score. How many marks did you recognize? Which question hit hardest? Let's see how many of the 11% are watching right now and build community. Shadow work is hard. Integration requires support. You need others who understand. Third, share this test. There are others in your life who need to know they're not alone. Others who felt too different, too intense, too drawn to darkness. Share this. Help them find out if they're one of the 11%. If you want to support this work financially, there's a link in the description. Your contribution helps us keep creating content that bridges the ancient and the modern, the spiritual and the psychological, the Christian and the Jungian. Thank you. Now go. Walk in your wholeness. Do your shadow work. Integrate what others reject. You are one of the 11%, a dark chosen one, called to depth, designed for integration, equipped for wholeness. Until next time, remember, your shadow is sacred. Your darkness holds treasure. Your integration is your calling. Pass the test, do the work, become whole.